Hello, I would like to welcome beautiful Cassie Kovacs to the podcast today.
Thank
She,
you so much.
yeah, I'm so happy to be that you're here. She'll tell you more about what she does, but she is a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator and a coach, and also an advocate for speaking about trauma. I am so excited about this conversation because I've been listening to some more of your podcasts, which she does have a wonderful podcast. Check it out. Um, I want you to share more about that as well. But what I really liked is that you were like, let's go deep. Like, let's talk about trauma. Like that's your thing. And I love that because that's also how I feel. Like, let's get deep so that we can heal, feel it and heal it. So yeah. So do you want to start by just telling us a bit about you, how you came to this work and you know,
Yeah, so I that's kind of like a loaded question. Like
I know.
that's such a big question. But to make like a long story short, essentially I made my way into this work through my own healing. I hired my own first mentor and knew during the work that we were doing that this was something that I wanted to give back. This is something that I want to help other people find as well, like this healed state, this peace, this joy, this bliss. Like I was experiencing all of that in a new way for the first time, and I knew that that was something that I wanted to give back. So I've just been evolving in different ways in order to be in that service.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And a big thing here in the first season is I am inviting women to share their stories too that have been through sexual traumas. So whatever you feel comfortable with sharing about that, because I just want us to see, for other people to see, like you can get on the other side. There is healing and highlight all the different modalities. But the first thing is just to acknowledge it and talk about that these things happened. So whatever you feel comfortable with sharing about your experience, like as deep as you want, or as just light, wherever you feel the best.
Yeah, yeah. So I will say that before I do share, um, talking about it was like the first step that created so much healing for me. Just like you had said, like sharing about it is the first step, or acknowledging is the first step. There was a period of time, and I'll get into this, where I forgot that it existed, like mentally, but obviously, the body keeps a score, the body remembers. And so sharing my story with as many people as I felt safe to is actually what created like the biggest footprint in my healing journey. So definitely I would recommend starting there with the people who are feeling called to move into healing is find some support, find somebody who you can share to. So I just wanted to share that little bit, but my story goes back to, I'm not 100% certain, as I'm sure some people can relate as well, of the age that I was, but I'm pretty certain that I was around the ages from like 6 to 8. And I grew up in a tiny little town in Connecticut where there was essentially like four houses in a block that was like my neighborhood. Those were our people. That's who we all hung out with all the time. And we being my two older brothers and I, the neighborhood kids, like had so much fun together. We played all types of games outdoors all the time. Like we were always together. And I think I was the youngest of the group. And as we got older a little bit, my neighbors became like my babysitters, and we were just together all the time. And we would play these like hiding games outside where it was like the like the manhunt and flashlight tag. And the younger ones would go with like pair up with some of the older kids and, to create safety with hiding. And there was one of the older neighbors that I would always like gravitate towards, and he took advantage of that. I was sexually abused by him a number of times. I think that I actually don't want to say what I was just going to say because it involves somebody else. But yeah, I that was something that I still find that when I share it, like I really want to be open about as much as possible, and like I'm open to questions always, but it still feels like touchy in a way of like protecting my younger self. But yeah, it was I think I was like 6 to 8, and yeah, it's still tough to talk about it as many times as I've shared it, and like logically I'm working on not telling the story from a removed standpoint. Like I got into the habit and the practice of telling my story as like I'm reading a story, and I've done it so many times that I feel like I'm not even talking about myself anymore. And this is like the first time sharing it that it feels like me. So it's a little bit more, it feels a little bit more raw right now. In a good way. Like I'm
Yeah, that you're safe
so
to like
open.
really embody it and feel it and share it. And I just want to honor you for sharing it with us and for going there to do the work because I know how
Yeah.
hard that is. Um, and like you said, there's different layers where it's like almost like it happened to someone else, and then it just gets a little closer until you really feel it. And
Yeah. So I can say from there, I had like recognized that something was wrong with the behavior. And at the same time, like I'm so young at the time that I was like, I don't know exactly what is wrong. Like I really was so young that I didn't know what was really happening. Like I didn't have the language for it. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that there was something that was like, this is not right. Like this is not okay. This is not good. And I ended up confiding in my cousin who is around the same age as me. So a 6 year old telling a 6 year old is like, we both don't know what's going on. But I do remember that after that, I had been called into my parents' room one night. And I'm not sure again, like what the timeline of this was, but they called me into their room and closed the door. And I don't think it was meant to be like a you're in trouble experience, but that's what it felt like for me. I walked in the room, and when they closed the door, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? This is bad. Like, they never do this. And I think that's the first experience of like true anxiety around a situation that I can recall. But they basically just sat me down and were like, did you, like, your cousin, this got back to us because this was a scary experience for her. Did this happen or did you make it up? And because of the anxiety, because of the fear, I said that I made it up. And I think that because that was how it played out, my body, like my brain, I won't say my body, but my brain believed that to be true. So from that point on, I had forgotten. it had left my brain until I was in high school. When I was like 15, I was in a school assembly where they were preparing us, to go off to college, and we're around that age where they start talking about sex and introducing, like you can say no, and here's how to be safe, and here's what a condom's like, and how you use it. And I basically had the trauma resurface for the first time. We were talking about just like the time frame and when you can get help if something does happen, and what sexual assault can look like in different ways. And I had a realization in the moment, like, wow, I think that this happened to me, but there was so much fear about it and that it was wrong and that it could be my fault that I just shut it down. And I forgot again for probably like 3 or 4 more years until it resurfaced again in about the same way when I was in college at an assembly talking about sexual assault, and it resurfaced, and that point on it never went away. It was here to stay this time, and I confided in some friends, and it wasn't until a few years later that I was like, I can't live with this anymore. I need to get some help. It was surfacing every single day, not in a way that would like really stop me in my tracks, but just something that was like in the back of my mind and would poke through here and there. So I feel like I try to make that not sound so heavy and like, oh, I'm okay. Um, But it really is like there is gravity to telling that story, and that's something that I'm still, as I'm helping others, as I'm sharing, navigating, like that being okay, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that. I like what you're sharing with that because of course I'm much older and I've been going through things like maybe a lot longer, but I'm so focused on like I am so free and so happy now, which I am. I've done the work really, really hard to do it. But it's like also just to acknowledge like that was horror. Like I felt I lived like through severe trauma. And it's like you said, it's nothing like is going to take away from the fact that you were violated in that way. Like it's so wrong. But just for us to be able to heal as much as we can. And then like I think us all talking about it because, like you said, as a kid, you think you did something wrong often. So even like you said, even your parents asking you, it just you don't understand. Like you don't have the capacity, and then you're just more quiet about it, you know? So I this is just a conversation I want to open up for the future because I don't know the answer, but it's like, how can we help parents to know like signs and to really like when it's often the nice neighbor or the coach or the, or the uncle, you know what I mean? Like, um, that's that's for future. Like if you have any ideas, I want to get that conversation going as well because I think that sometimes as parents too, like especially moms, you might get an intuition something's not right, but then you're like, my kid seems fine and this is the nicest guy. You know what I mean? So just like
Right.
finding a way to just obviously by just talking about it, we're protecting future kids, I feel, because people that have been through it are going to heal. But even if you've not been through this, you're going to hopefully you're going to learn about this to recognize it and help others so we can really prevent, one of these people often you know injures so many people because of the silence. And so if we can just raise awareness and then really ultimately like let's get it out of this world completely.
Yeah.
But what is but for right now we have so many of us are just are so wounded. It's like
Right.
the healing work to like set ourselves free. And then a lot of this, like I wanted to do something for what I wish I had when I was younger. And so I think this is so good because we have so many resources. Find a coach, like if you can work with Cassie or work with someone, that's so great. People can also work with me. But even like I had a time when I had no resources. So being on YouTube, there's a lot of free stuff available. And like this is going to be one of them, just to know you're not alone. There's meditations and breath work and journaling. I mean, there's just so many things like first steps to be able to take. But to me, I want people to know they're not alone in what they experienced because I felt very alone. I thought something was wrong with me. I felt very confused even as I got into marriages and had kids because I hadn't healed my trauma. So it was like, I don't know. So yeah, I just want this to be like a message of hope, but I like that you acknowledge that. Like, it's not easy to talk about it, and it's like never going to be okay that that happened to you, but you
Right.
really can heal it and experience like more freedom and more joy. And I just keep feeling like more deeper and deeper levels of it, which is so
Mhm.
exciting to me because it's like keep finding like other little boxes that kind of get to open. And so I want other people to experience that, as soon as possible. If you're like 16 or you're 90, like just
Right.
able to do the work and to heal and just know that it's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. And there's just no way you could know even. So,
Mhm.
but it, but it's us having to do the work. We could say all of those things to someone, like it's not your fault. You didn't know. But like we have to really do that work and go into like say save our inner children and be like, really, it's not you, I love you, you're safe, and go and kind of rescue them. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I just feel like I know that it's in something that we need to do for ourselves, but having the community, having a coach or a therapist or whatever you feel. But to me, I think having someone who's been through it themselves and then they're like you said, it's a healing journey, but they're further on the healing journey, and they can give you those tools is very powerful, you know. Do you want to share it all, if you can, anonymously share about some of the clients you've worked with? Maybe what does that look like if someone wants to work with you and they've experienced a trauma?
Yeah, I mean, so in combination with just coaching in general, which I would say I think of my coaching as like in compartmentalized different like pillars that I will work with. So one of them is like vocal expression. Like we're talking about your experience. I'm giving you the space to express it like in its truth, in its fullness. Like I want to hear your full experience. Like not the story that you tell people like I was saying in the beginning, not just like the easily digestible story, I want to hear your full experience to be able to allow yourself to, be with the magnitude of the experience without feeling like you have to cover it up or make it easily digestible, make it easy for someone to receive. Like being with the truth of what has happened is huge, is huge, for yourself to be able to like reintegrate it in. So that's one piece of the puzzle, and that was like the only piece of the puzzle that I was working with for a long time until I recognized that within myself and in my clients that there is so much more to the story outside of just talking about it. Oftentimes when we're just sharing with through vocal expression, we're not addressing anything that's actually going on in the body, which I think is why people struggle with anxiety and depression and other, I mean, we can go down a huge rabbit hole of other mental illnesses and diseases, like everything I believe is so tied to trauma. But when we're just vocally expressing, I think a lot of times we keep ourselves in this circular pattern where we're maybe bringing up more awareness and maybe we're coming to terms with what's happened, but we're not actually healing on a cellular level, which is where I bring in like somatic therapy and also breath work. That's like becoming the star of the show right now is breath work. Breath work has helped both myself and my clients heal things that they can't even name. In my own experience, I've been through breathwork journeys where I have released like deep pain from my womb that I can't even explain beyond that. Like the sounds and the energy that moved through, like I can't name it. And it's just been so much more transformational when I thought that I was done healing, you know? Like I thought I have this story covered. I've got this chapter covered. Like I've been through it, done, survived, check. But there's no checking that box. As you have heard in the beginning of this episode, like there are still little pockets that this likes to hide. And like I will continue to move through it and address it. And it's like a roller coaster. It gets harder in some points of my life and way easier in other points. Sometimes it's just a little bump where it surfaces and I'm cruising on by, but it's something that does come up again. And the longer that you ignore it, the louder it becomes.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like you just keep trying to push it down, but it'll go out everywhere and spill and affect our relationships and our lives and our health. And um, I got to do a breathwork journey with you, and that was like very powerful. And I've also had the experience of having things heal and leave that like in a very easy way versus and I'm not promising this to anyone, but I'm just saying for me, I've been through really feeling a lot of triggers and journaling and all of that. But in breath work and in trauma informed yoga, I've had things just leave my body. I felt them leave my body, but it was very peaceful. Like it was like it just was like, oh, I don't know. Does that make sense? Like it was like, oh, it can go like this. Like it just that's why I'm like, um, I think what you do is so powerful because, like you said, our cells know, our body knows, but like our brain is like blocked things. So
Right. Which like is your brain's protection.
yeah, yeah,
It will resurface, you know, when it's time, when you're ready, when your body's ready to release it. And so don't ignore it even when it's extremely challenging and you feel like overwhelmed by like what is this? I can't believe like was this me? Is this true? Did this happen? Like there are so many questions that are so familiar to other people who have experienced sexual assault and just know that like you're not alone in that. Like that is your brain doing its job.
yeah, in protecting you until you're ready. And I do think like, yeah, I want to definitely acknowledge and honor too, like you said. I mean, I had days I couldn't get out of bed. I had many, most of my life couldn't sleep. So um I don't want to seem like I'm minimizing it because I feel so happy and free now.
Yeah.
There to be like, let there be hope for people that they're maybe not there yet, you know,
Mhm.
that you don't have to live like that you know, that you really can love yourself and accept yourself and be free. And it is so worth the work, you
Yeah,
know, because sometimes you don't even know how bad you're feeling until you get free. And then it's like, wow, I was
for sure.
surviving. And, you know, so what about that? What kind of breath work is it that you do? Is it a specific type? You know, like I experienced it, but I just got like lost in the journey. It was really good. And I know there's different types. Like what type are you trained in, or do you different ones?
Yeah, so talking about breath work, saying that you do breath work or you practice breath work or you facilitate breath work is like saying that you exercise. there are a million and one ways to do breath work, to practice breath work, to teach breath work, to facilitate. It's like I do gymnastics or I play soccer or I lift weights. Like those are completely different experiences, but they're all under the exercise umbrella. It's like with breath work, it can be the same thing. Like there are so many different ways to do it. So I am certified in trauma informed somatic breath work. So we go through how I structure my journeys is like climbing a mountain. And that's part of the reason why it's called a journey because we're going places. So we'll start off really slow and soft with a functional breath just in and out through the nose. We'll move into deep belly breathing through the mouth. We'll move into the peak, which is where we are for essentially like the bulk of the journey, into a deep belly, deep chest, mouth breathing. And then we come back down the same way we climbed up. So that's like sort of the structure. And I think that the full journey in that experience is so different from different breathwork practices because we're not using any force and there's no specific cadence. It's going off of your body. So I've had a lot of people approach me saying like I'm interested in breath work, but I have asthma, or I'm interested in breath work, but I had a traumatic experience where they became re-traumatized, or they had left breath work feeling like, okay, now I have this awareness, but it's like it feels stuck, like they were left in a low vibration. And the only feedback that I've ever received from the breath work that I facilitate is that it's the softest and also the deepest that people have ever gone. And I really like to say that because it really, really is a safe space and it's all based on you. I'm never going to push you past a point that I don't think that you're ready for, or that you're not ready for. Like there is so much choice in it. So I know if you've never heard of breath work, it can kind of sound confusing. So I'll maybe just like leave it at that. But if you have more questions or anything else that you think would be helpful for more context, Trish.
Okay. Well, yeah, I like the way you described it because I've done quite a bit of breath work in different, settings and even learned some as my yoga teacher training, but it's not like what you do. And I like that because I had heard you say it before. It was very soft and very easy, but it went deep.
Hmm.
So there's some special magic sauce that you have. So I'm glad I got to experience that because it was very gentle and um yeah, it was a very transformative experience. And I think that's a good thing to think about people that have maybe never experienced like breath work before. Like maybe that seems scary, but it's really your choice to stop at any time, whether working with you or someone else. It's like if you need to stop and just do some shallow breathing, it's you're in control of your body and your breath and what you do too. I think that is something to maybe bring up for people that have never experienced it, especially they've been through trauma and it's like, oh no, alarms are going off. Like, what's going to happen with this person? And so I
Right.
love that you work with people one on one too, like that, and cater it to them, you know.
Yeah. And like even in a group setting, you won't be overlooked
Mhm.
too. Like I just want to make that point also. And I also offer you different tools to keep in mind. And, I make sure that you're going into your journey informed on what can happen, what you can expect, what you can use. So we create a lot of safety ahead of time just in case you are feeling either nervous or anxious, or if anything comes up that feels really uncomfortable, like you will be informed on what you can do.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
That question that just came to my mind that I wanted to ask you about is just with everything that you've been through, like how did it affect your body and your relationship with your body and how you felt about your body? Like, is there anything that you can share about that?
Yeah, I think the overall theme is that I just felt very disconnected from my body. And it directly impacted my confidence. I think outwardly, I always came off as like a confident girl, as a confident woman. But inwardly, I never ever thought highly of myself. I've always, until now, held myself in my own regard as like a very medium, average human, inside and out. And although with my body, I never really experienced deep pain in ways that you've described to me, Trish, or I've never struggled with disease, or I know a common thread for some survivors are like PCOS or extremely painful periods and endometriosis. Like these things can be tied. I thankfully never experienced those things. I have, however, if you do feel comfortable taking this here on your podcast, I have struggled with sexual intimacy and numbness
Hmm.
in experiencing pleasure.
No, I appreciate you going there with that because I think that's important. Of course, that it affects our sexuality, I felt very unsafe in my body too, and I just didn't like, I don't know. But do you think it's like a dissociation that's going on because what happened when you were younger? It's like you just dissociated and had to learn to, or are learning to like embody more in a safe way. What would you say?
Yeah, because there was a point in my time and in time in my life, I was like very hypersexual and, was having a great time.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until like a few years into my relationship with my current partner that like flashbacks and memories started really surfacing. So it came up at such like what seems to be very random time. But yeah, I think it is just like I was in the bulk of healing, of like telling these stories. And this is actually what reminded me of like, oh, hey, this is on a cellular level too. Like we have to get in and start working with the body. I noticed that there was avoidance in like claiming my sexuality and like finding myself attractive and finding myself sexy. And then it started just like trickling into blocking that out as a whole and feeling a lot more shame towards that version of me. Like it felt like, to put it simply, like everything around sex turned bad.
Yeah, I totally can relate to that because I struggled for a while to where I just felt like because those things were so in my mind and associated with sex, it was very frustrating because it's like we deserve our pleasure as women and to be able to be intimate and as people, I should say. But it was like these gross images would come in my mind and then I would just feel like disgusted by, but it's not, it was the trauma, it's like, of course, like we can, we're made to be, sexual and to have these experiences
Right.
however we want to, but it was tricky for me too for a while. It's like I just had no desire to be in an intimate relationship. I was just kind of like, I don't know, are all of the guys like this maybe too?
Mhm.
Like to trust when you've been around people that appeared okay and then they weren't. Like I had issues also too of like, what if I get into like a sexual relationship with someone and then they're that kind of person? I don't know. It's complicated. It like affects like so many things, but for me, now that I've been able to get the flashbacks and all of that and healed more, then I've been able to heal my like sexuality and that's opened up my creativity because I was like very sexually repressed, very blocked. So it's like it's not just about, yeah, we get to have and claim great sex as women and other people, you know what I mean? I don't want to just only say women because it's everyone, but we're talking primarily about women. But also, like, to me, like, even if I'm not sexually active with somebody, if you have that blockage in your sacral center and everything, then you don't have creativity. Like you're just shut down. Like I was just completely shut down. Like I would have never created this podcast. I would never be, I would have been in my little box that I kept myself really safe and the same job, the same everything, which I totally love that part of me too, because I was doing the best I could to survive. But to me, I really want to raise awareness too, because I really think that when women heal, we are going to heal the world. And it starts with us really embracing our creative energy and our sensuality and our sexuality and like healing, you know, healing the shame. I mean, if you have shame, that's okay too. It's just a sign that like there's some stuff to go in and move out, because it's like now I know like I don't have, and like I said, we're always working on layers, so it's hard to sometimes say like I don't have that, but I really there have been things, but I feel so like free, and I feel like I really love my body, um and yeah, it just feels good to like be in my body and love my body, and then I'm totally open to having a partner, which is so new for me because I was just like nope, done. Too much bad stuff happened with sex category.
Yeah.
Well, it's sad because it's like not even sex. But when you experience as a kid, it's like that's not sex, that's assault.
Right.
But it gets like
Right.
twisted in our brain to where we think, because of these acts or whatever. So I think it's really good. I appreciate you bringing that up and like sharing that because um, I think a lot of people are suffering with that as well.
Yeah, and there's also like once you have that awareness, if you are with a safe partner, it's being able to communicate that to them and like know that the blame isn't on them, but like here are my needs. Like you can ask for what you need and you know, I think a lot of the fear around that is like, what if my partner doesn't understand or what if they don't support me? And that's like a whole nother situation, like I don't like to use the word should, but like you should be able to have a conversation like this with your partner and they should be able to support you.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And I think just aside from separate from this particular trauma, just in general, as women, we're trained to be like performative with sex and
Right.
like, if our partner wants us, then we got to be there. We got to look like whatever. And just like, it's so sad, that young women are learning that as well, because it can be such a beautiful, deep. I mean, it's designed to be this beautiful, intimate thing to bring us
Right.
pleasure, to like open it up our creativity. But yeah, it's just been come distorted. So I really want to like go deeper into this as well. And it's something I'm healing too, and just like learning to be like more embodied and accept my sensuality, my sexuality. So that's like kind of my next thing that I want to go deeper on. And I'm
Mhm.
excited about. It's like, oh, now I get to do this.
Yeah.
So I look at it so differently now. And I just want to like I'm excited to see what comes with that. Also, it's like a gift, like, oh, I get to have this now if I want it. Before it just was like so much trauma. It was like, no, it's not safe, off the table.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like a little bit of like icing on the cake. Like if I want that, then now I am a free woman that I get to experience that.
Mm.
So
I
it's
love
just
that for you.
feeling good to feel good. It's like just another level of freedom and choice and like you said, having those conversations with your partners of whatever you want, when you don't want it, what feels safe, what is like really important because that's one of the purposes of this podcast too, just talking about how our bodies are not commodities and we are not just here to service,
Right.
consume and yeah.
Yeah. And Yeah, and I'm so excited for you too and happy for you that you've gotten to that place too.
Yeah, me too. It feels like so, it feels really exciting just to be like, wow, okay, something like new. And like right now, I don't currently have a sexual partner, which I'm absolutely fine with too, because I'm just like embracing that in myself. Like we don't have to be with somebody else, like to embrace and love your body and like,
Yeah.
you know, just open up to creativity and joy and fun. And to me, when your sexual center is blocked like that, I mean, it blocks the joy, it blocks the fun.
Oh
It's just
yeah.
is a big dark cloud and like a wall. That's what my experience was. So
Yeah.
really excited and would love to like explore more of this on the podcast as well,
Yeah.
work with
Yeah.
that. So, oh my goodness, I feel like I could just talk to you for hours and hours, but um, thank you for everything you shared today and so vulnerably. And I appreciate you also going, deeper and deeper into things. And can you share with everyone where they can find out more about you, your podcast, your offerings? I don't know, you've done some retreats. I don't know if you have something kind of acting. Just where can everyone find you and follow you? And then I can't highly recommend her podcast enough. Go and follow her.
Oh.
It's so good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my podcast is Grow More Good. If you you can listen on anything. I don't know, like Spotify and Apple for sure. I think it's like everywhere you can listen to podcasts. Um, yeah, my Instagram is underscore Cassie Kovacs. I'm sure Trish will have it linked for you guys, but those are my main two places to be. Um, I do one-to-one coaching and breath work. I do one-off breath work sessions if you're like curious, wanting to give it a go. I do one-off sessions. I also hop into group sessions. So sometimes I host group sessions, but I also have been invited into other coaches' containers. So if you're a coach looking to bring something like this into your container, I do themed breath works. I'd be happy to come in. And yeah, I'm also adventuring into retreats. So I'll be on my first retreat in Malibu in September next month. I can't believe it's so soon. But yeah, there's a few more spots on that one. You have to check it out. Devotion. You can check out Cameron Scholsinger. Yeah, that's where I'll be.
I might be there too. I had checked that out. So I'm going to see if I can come and attend.
Oh
But
my
yeah, that's
gosh.
beautiful. And to me, being able to heal in a retreat is like accelerates. So if anyone can go to that, if there's still any spots when we play this, go or just see
Yeah.
what you're offering next. And I have retreats coming up too. So yeah,
Oh,
but yeah, I'll link all of your stuff and it's been such a blessing to speak with you today. Thank you for being on the podcast. And I want you to know, as I listen to your podcast, like this makes me want to cry. I was like, Cassie has created like what I wanted. So it was like such a relief too, because I was like, the more of us that are doing this work and like putting it out there, but me listening to it, I was just like, yes, this is what I wish my younger self had. So like
oh,
it's like you're doing such beautiful work and shining your light in the world and the purpose. Like I just honor you and thank you so much.
oh, thank you. That means the world. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.